Hey everybody, Josh Searson of World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by Ty Bollinger, one of the loudest voices in the fight to bring real health alternatives to the public's eye. He's an author, documentary filmmaker, radio show host, cancer researcher, and a former competitive bodybuilder, among several other talents, so I am not going to challenge him to a fight. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on today.
Excellent. Now, something that should shock many is the concerted effort to hide cancer cures in an effort to bring money to, I call them Hegelian pharmaceutical rackets worldwide. Can you tell our viewers your experience researching cancer, what you found, and why people should look into alternative methods of ridding themselves of cancer?
Yeah, great question. So what I found over the years is the fact that the conspiracy to suppress natural cancer treatments in the United States is not a theory, it's a fact. And we can go all the way back to 1953. It's called the Fitzgerald Report. Bennett Fitzgerald was an investigator with the United States Interstate Commerce Committee. And he was commissioned with the task to determine if there was a conspiracy to suppress natural cancer treatments in 1953. And his conclusion, and this is in the Congressional Record, 1953, was yes, there's a conspiracy to suppress. And it's only gotten worse since then. And in the research that I've done over the last 20 plus years, since my father was diagnosed and died of cancer, shows that there's been multiple different scenarios where a doctor was using a treatment that was working, statistically significant, and was forced to either leave the country or was imprisoned because they were curing cancer in a way that was not approved by the FDA. So it's not really a theory, it's really a fact that these treatments are being suppressed. It's just a matter of that most people aren't aware of it, but it's happening.
Yeah, just watching the amount of people who are scared, so they go straight to the hospital. They go straight into chemotherapy. I've watched so many people that I know die from cancer. We all have. Cancer is one of the most prevalent diseases, I guess, that we see personally on a day-to-day basis. I think the statistics are insane. It's what the majority of us, or at least half of us, are due to get cancer in our lifetime. And we also have a lot of bad habits, but I found a lot of people who use things like baking soda. So, for example, they lower their alkalinity. That seems to help a lot of people. What do you think?
Yeah, baking soda is one of many. It actually increases alkalinity. So it's one of many different substances that's used. Yeah, I know what you meant.
Yeah,
it's one of many different substances that are used to make the body, to put the body in a state where that it can do the healing. Right. So it's interesting, but I don't really believe that there are cures for cancer. What there are hundreds, if not thousands, of natural substances that we can ingest or inhale or whatever form we want to get them into our bodies that then make our bodies in a state that they can do the healing. So in essence, it's like a two-step process. We've got to give the body what it needs so that it can heal, because the bodies are meant to heal, but we don't give the fuel, it can't do the healing. It's much like a car. Car will only run if you put fuel in it, right? You can have all the other mechanisms in place, but if you don't put fuel in the engine, it ain't going to start.
No, absolutely.
And our bodies are the same way. We give them the fuel, we give them the nutrition, the supplementation, whatever it is that they need, and they heal. It's just, it doesn't matter, and it really doesn't matter what disease, whether it's cancer or heart disease or diabetes. If you put the body in the state it's supposed to be in, it will naturally heal a whole host of ailments. And you mentioned fear, and I wanted to address that. That's the biggest tool by the medical industry today to scare people into doing a treatment that doesn't work. We look at chemotherapy, radiation, surgery for cancer. What do the chemo and radiation have in common? They both cause cancer. Many chemotherapy drugs on the package insert says may cause secondary cancers. Every oncologist knows radiation causes cancer. So we're treating a disease called cancer with substances that can cause cancer.
It's like a much more extreme version of the flu vaccines that put the flu in your body.
Yes, and the flu vaccines, which by the way on the package insert says has not been tested or has not been proven that it stops the flu.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's important that people understand this, because obviously health is life. You can't live a long, productive life unless you are healthy. I ought to take some clues from you, because I'm not very good at keeping healthy myself. I'm a bit of a hypocrite, but I want people to know the information, and I should start following it myself at a much larger scale. I remember one year I went completely organic. Only ate organic foods, and I felt better than I ever have in my life. And it was a testament. It was expensive, but there's a reason why it's expensive, because these massive monopolies propped up by the government to a large extent are pushing this kind of depopulation agenda, which is what I wanted to get into with you next, which is, do you think there is an effort to depopulate people by blinding them to the real cures? Agenda 21 and 2030 comes to mind.
To me, there's no doubt. Now, it's not something I focus on a lot because people say, oh, that's just crazy. I won't listen to anything else the God says. But of course there is, right? And we have a food supply that's contaminated, that's been compromised from every angle. And not only with pesticides and fungicides and herbicides, some of them that are known to cause cancer.
Yeah.
But now we have genetically modified organisms throughout the food supply. And GMOs cause cancer. Don't let Monsanto tell you that they don't, because the study that they did was falsified. The real study was done by Seralini and his colleagues in 2013, released in 2014, and they showed that GMO corn causes cancer. So we have this assault on our food supply. We have assault on our water supply with things like fluoride and chlorine in the water, and a whole host of other things in the water that can cause a lot of problems. And we also have the air that's being constantly polluted with chemtrails, chemical trails, right?
Yeah.
The planes are spraying chemicals. I don't think anybody will debate that. As a matter of fact, the U.S. government has patents on chemtrail technology.
Actually, in Canada, where I come from, there's a Canadian Weather Modification Act. There's Environment Canada geoengineering agenda. There's the UN's unilateral geoengineering agenda. It's all on paper. People just have to look it up. And it's true that it sounds crazy, and it's true that a lot of people in that movement overstate it to an extent and claim some things that are clearly not geoengineering are geoengineering, and it makes the rest of us look bad because there is an overstatement to an extent there. But it does happen. And you mentioned fluoride. Hydrofluorosilicic acid is industrial. It's not, even the stuff in your toothpaste, a medical grade, it's bad, but this is industrial chemical, the
Waste.
byproduct of aluminum and phosphate mining. It's insane.
It's waste.
So what could they possibly be putting in the water for? Why are the cavity rates much higher in cities with fluoride when it's meant to stop cavities? It's insane.
It is, but don't bother us with the facts. Fluoride's safe and effective. It prevents tooth decay, and it doesn't cause cancer. Even though we do have many studies out now that show that fluoride causes osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. So we know that now. So when you look at the air, the food, the water, it's all contaminated. It's not just by accident.
Yeah.
I believe there is a more sinister agenda. But like I said, I don't focus on it as much because then people don't listen to anything. They're like, la la la.
Yeah.
This
You
guy's crazy.
gotta lead them to that eventually, because that is a fact. But obviously, a lot of people are concerned about taking that point of view.
Well, and you also got to drip information to people. And I used to just turn on the fire hose, and it would scare people away. So now I kind of drip it.
Yeah, very understandable. Yeah. I hardly talk about geoengineering anymore because I want to lead people to those facts without scaring them away when I talk about politics. But there have been people in the past who've claimed they found the cancer cure and have been incredibly irresponsible because, let's face it, there are many methods out there that simply don't work. Snake oil, as some would say. This creates a lot of noise among the real alternatives. Obviously, cancer is an incredibly serious ailment. How do people find the best treatments and cut out that noise?
Well, selfless plug here, I would go to our website, thetruthaboutcancer.com. We got hundreds, if not thousands, of articles that we've written about treatments for cancer that are natural or even integrative, right? And you're right, there's a lot of snake oil, but there's a lot of accuracy. So the snake oil makes the ones that are accurate look bad, And so how do people get to the truth? It's really a matter of just educating yourself. So, and some things are patently not going to be helpful. I had somebody that emailed me a couple years ago and said, my doctor told me that if I eat 3 Doritos a day, it'll stop cancer. I'm like, okay, well, that's clearly made up.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? But you've got a lot of stuff out there, and here's what I would say to people as a general rule. If you look at any protocol, if they don't focus on eliminating harmful foods and toxins that you're intaking initially, then I would try to find something else. That's got to be the first step. Because we have cancer, which you mentioned the statistic, 50% of people, 50% of men and then 33% of women will one day face a cancer diagnosis that are alive today. But if we don't correct the root problem of the cancer, and the root problem is immune system that's compromised, and it's compromised because we're eating toxic food a lot of times. If we don't get rid of the toxic food, we're not going to heal the body. Yeah. So if you, general rule, look for a treatment protocol that begins to get good fuel into your body and eliminates the crap, and then go from there.
Absolutely. Well, what needs to happen before alternative cures become mainstream?
That's a good question. You've heard the phrase that whoever owns the language wins the argument. Well, the first thing I think we need to think about is that these are not alternative cures, right? They're called alternative cancer cures. And chemotherapy and radiation and surgery are called traditional treatments.
Yeah.
What's the definition of traditional? It's treatments that have been used for traditions. Chemotherapy is less than 100 years old. Radiation, too, as a treatment, is less than 100 years old. Those are not traditional. The traditional treatments for cancer are herbs, foods, detoxification, sweating. I mean, the Indians go back thousands of years using saunas to detoxify. Those are the real traditional treatments. The alternative treatments are the ones that are now called traditional. So they've co-opted the language. I think that the main thing that we need to realize is that when you are diagnosed with cancer, you need to be empowered with knowledge, and then you need to realize that if you decide to use food, detoxification, supplementation, whatever it might be, ozone, whatever, to treat your cancer, that is not like some weird protocol that you're just, you've thrown caution to the wind.
Yeah.
Those are treatments that have been used for millennia. And then and I really believe that many people should look at an integrative approach. Take the best of Western medicine, take the best of natural medicine, and use what works for you. The problem that I have is with freedom. We're having cancer treatments forced down our throat without being told that you have options. And that's what got me on this road to begin with, because my father didn't know. My mother didn't know. I lost both grandfathers, my grandmother, uncle, cousin, all to cancer. They didn't know they had options. I just want people to know they have options, and then they can make up their own mind.
Yeah, and I can imagine that was quite a weight on your shoulder, considering that you're thinking, well, now it's coming down the line to myself.
Sure, I was scared to death of cancer. I was like, I'm definitely going to get cancer because everybody else in my family did. I didn't realize that there's what's called epigenetics, which is a science that shows that no matter what your genetics are, that you can do things that affect that genetic expression. Where you may have a gene that says you're going to get cancer, breast cancer. Women are afraid of this, the BRCA gene. But that doesn't mean you're going to get cancer. If you live a healthy lifestyle, if you do this, that, it won't express itself that way. And the reality is, even on the American Cancer Society's own website, they say that only about 5 to 10% of cancers are genetic. The majority are environmentally caused.
And that says a lot. And I just want to throw something out there before we wrap it up, which is how insane the healthcare system is when you consider people are being extorted taxed, and their money is going into these pharmaceutical rackets where really they think they're getting free healthcare, like in places like Canada where everyone thinks it's just the golden, it's just beautiful up there. Everyone just gets free healthcare. In reality, you sit there for about 10 to 12 hours, even if you're having a heart attack in a lot of cases. And it's just insane because this money goes into these pharmaceutical companies. It props them up, monopolizes them, which usually people on the left hate monopolies, but not in this case, apparently. And what it does is they say, well, the prices are too expensive. Yes, by monopolizing these companies and killing off all competition, you're going to have a monopoly and high prices, no innovation, so no actual striving to create a cure, but they have that monetary motive. What do you think about the American healthcare, the healthcare system in general? What do you think needs to happen or lack thereof?
Well, I think the problem is really the fact that I'm not opposed to a healthcare system. What I'm opposed to is that the healthcare system is skewed to only support, like the insurance companies will only pay for something that's approved. And everything that's approved is pharmaceutical based. So what we're doing in the United States and Canada and all over the world really is we're treating symptoms instead of getting to the cause. So if you have cancer, you don't have cancer because you have a deficiency of chemotherapy. Cancer is a symptom that something's wrong in your body. But we prescribe drugs to treat a symptom, and those drugs have side effects. And here's the thing, if you're a pharmaceutical company, it's a beautiful business model. Because you're creating drugs that cause symptoms that you can then treat with more drugs that you just created that will cause more symptoms that you can create with more drugs, and it's an endless cycle of money coming into the pockets of the pharmaceutical company to keep people sick, but not ever heal. And the problem is that we're treating symptoms and not getting to the root cause. And I think the real problem is the fact that when we look at pharmaceutical companies, they're publicly traded. What's their job? Make money. Because they're publicly traded. Their job is to maximize shareholder revenues. And as a result, they're going to use a business model that does that. And their business model is to prescribe drugs to treat symptoms that will create more symptoms that they can create new drugs to treat, and the money keeps flowing in.
Yeah, and you stand up against that, and you're throwing Granny down the stairs, apparently. That is the insane reality of this, and I mentioned Hegelian before. It's a Hegelian dialect. It's problem, reaction, solution, repeat, over and over and over again. And I'm glad that you went into this. I'm glad that we were able to talk, and I thank you so much for talking with us. Can you just plug your work and let viewers know where they can go to find more of your work and support you?
Sure. So if anybody anybody wants to read about what we've done, the research, www.thetruthaboutvaccines.com is our vaccine website. But the main website is www.thetruthaboutcancer.com. You get a lot of information on both websites, but the cancer website is full of hundreds of articles to help empower yourself with knowledge to stay healthy.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Appreciate the interview.
Do you like what you see here at Wham? Well, make sure to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored by YouTube. You can also see our Bitcoin address in the description and the comments, as well as on the screen for you to scan, if you please. And also find us on Steemit.com. That's Steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid to blog via cryptocurrencies. You can find me at Josh Sigurdsson. So we hope to see you there. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdsson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.